Khalil Issa, live in Tripoli currently now. I'm an independent journalist. I'm also a sociologist. I have been following a lot of the day-to-day political events and sociological and cultural practices in Tripoli and in Lebanon in general and the Arab world. And I'm very interested in trying to provide a scientific view of what happened in the 2019 protests. Well, I was living in Tripoli at that time, a little bit before, and I had finished my thesis in my master's in Beirut in AUB. And then I was I was working in journalism, and when it started, the whole problems of the city already had became obvious to me, like in 2016. There was a time of the Syrian war, revolution, and the people there was also like the Jabal Mahsen and Tibani war. So the 2019 came as a very singular event, and it provided a way to actually interact with the people, with groups of people that I usually wouldn't have seen before. And it also posed the whole question of what is an identity of the city, who speaks in the name of Tripoli, of any city, but in Tripoli. And it was a very interesting struggle to take part in. Actually, as an activist, I was also like doing interviews and doing kind of discussions in the tents, and you learn a lot by actually being an activist with a sociological eye. So like it teaches you much more. The rewards are much more than just like reading books sometimes. So yeah, in this respect, I would say that the best service I can do to the activist self or the goals in me would be to be a good scientist or a good sociologist in a sense. It was a renewal, a kind of an Ethiopian renewal, a possibility that was never been before. It's kind of a time where everything could have happened. I mean, you would sense your own agency, the agency of the people. The people felt for the first time that they can make a difference. And personally, I mean, I met a lot of people, and I also saw, let's say, the limits of the determinant factors in this society. Let's say, like how much, let's say, the economics determines the fate or not fate of the people, who chooses at the end to speak in the name of a group and so on. And for me, it was like a continuous, let's say, series that I was watching and taking part of. And yeah, I mean, 2019 was also like a chance that, I mean, I relearned myself how to be a Tripolitan. I mean, before it was just theoretical, and now you had like discussions going on about what is Tripoli, what is to be in Tripoli, and so on. Beirut, Lebanon, what is Lebanese, what is to be Lebanese, and so on. So in this sense, I mean, like it's a very, very huge learning experience in a sense. Well, I mean, there are like the two narratives, let's say, that are competing in a sense. There are the narratives of the revolution proper, taken by the activists themselves and so on, by the political parties who anti-system, who would say, oh yeah, it started because it's a part of a big like a scheme to Arab Spring and whatever. I mean, I think it's a bit romantic. I mean, it's like there's no actual causal relations with this, and so it's a bit of a it's fitting for a part of the social strata to with some specific interest, like cultural capital interest, to have this. But there's also like the other equally dangerous, more dangerous even, like narrative that it's also like a conspiracy. It's also like everything was for the Sixth Sense was up, started, and it was the state or whatever the power. It's not like this. I mean, it's not completely like this. So it's also like there's no agency in this narrative in a sense. So I mean it's important to see the 2019 as I think a possibility of the middle class, post-war generation of the middle class, like a huge chunk of it, that tried to give a punch to the system, to the regime, the Lebanese regime. And I think that we have to be honest with ourselves. I mean, the whole financial collapse, let's say, as the UN, I think, article says, it was like intentional depression. I mean, you cannot see this but as a way that the regime hit back at this middle class and forced them to like emigrate. So, in a sense, I mean, we were defeated, let's say, economically, physically, but I mean, the ideas themselves are still like there, and I hope, I mean, like that would be good. The geography itself, I mean, the concentration of the protest in Sahat al-Noor, in Sahat Abd Hamid Karami, and the whole like debate about whether it was important or not, and so on. I mean, it's important at a certain extent, but I feel that much of the protest, let's say, self or hexes or whatever, the corporal disposition, so on, existed even like in the souks and so on. They didn't protest, but I mean, when they wanted to protest, they would go to the Saha and protest. So in a sense, the geography it meant that like a big chunk of the Tripolitans like agreed that they would take this place as a rallying point, so on. So, but of course later on this fizzled out and something. But the geography, I mean, it also means that the identity of Tripoli as a city is strong. I mean, which is something good. This is, for example, I wouldn't see in Beirut as in the same way, like in the post-war Beirut with the whole, like the corporatization or whatever, the incorporation of the city in your body. What does it mean to you? It's easier to be done in Tripoli than in Beirut if you're living in. Yeah. So this is why the geography of the protest would be so clear. I mean, yeah. So, I don't know if this is speculative anyway. I mean.